Good morning and welcome to a Hasty podcast. I'm your host, Weston Hasty, and you're listening to a Hasty podcast. Wow, it's been a long time since I've said that out loud at all. Do I remember how to do this? Do I remember what I'm doing? No, of course not. I mean, I do. I haven't been away from podcasts entirely, everybody. If you have not yet listened to, subscribed to, followed, etc., my other podcast, Profoundish, you should definitely do so. Look for it on Spotify and YouTube. It's called Profoundish. I do it with my buddy Alex, and we have a fantastic time talking about different topics and playing fun podcast games. This is a Hasty podcast, my solo run podcast that's just me talking about what's on my mind and what's going on and whatever. And it's also the podcast that likes to disappear from time to time. Look, I have been busy, but also not, but also yes. So, it's been a while since our last podcast, and I would love to fill you in on all the possible details of what I've been up to since the last time we talked, but it's been so long, in fact, that I've forgotten everything. Listen, I'll talk to you about what I've been up to here lately, right after my sip of coffee. Yes. I needed to do a louder sip. We need to get that coffee ASMR sip in there. I tried to sip louder, and then I instead just about inhaled, choked, and died. Anyway, that would have been great to have on audio, just me straight up choke dying, for all of you to enjoy. Anyway, I have been primarily, just because I do play a lot of games in my off time, which is more limited than I would like it to be, believe it or not. As someone who does run a gaming YouTube channel, you might be thinking to yourself, oh wow, Weston probably plays a lot of video games all the time, and not as much as I would like to. Gosh, that would be fun. But I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate in my off time, so I have a lot of Baldur's Gate stuff that I could talk about, but I also don't want to bore people with Baldur's Gate talk. You know, there's a meme. There's I'm gonna say meme. There's a thing that exists out there where it's like no one wants to listen to other people's D&D stories. That's a thing I've heard, right? If you get really excited, if you're in a D&D party or campaign or whatever, I'm a DM for a D&D campaign. D&D, for those of you that are uninitiated, is Dungeons and Dragons. But I like D&D. I play D&D. Baldur's Gate is D&D based, and it's a video game. Blah blah blah. I like listening to other people's D&D stories. I like getting inspiration from other people's stories and what they've been up to. I know a few people in my life that aren't a part of my campaign, but they play D&D themselves, and I like to listen to D&D stories because I think it's fun to listen to what kind of shenanigans people get up to. But there is a sort of understanding that a lot of people don't care to listen to other people's D&D stories, and I don't know if that comes from people that aren't in D&D, don't want to listen to D&D stories because they don't care or understand because, they don't play, or if it's just a matter of well, I'm not a part of that campaign, I'm not a part of that game, so I don't really care. I don't know what the case is, but I was playing Baldur's Gate the other day, all right? And we can talk more about Baldur's Gate if I feel like it, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to brag about my technical prowess. Yes, that's right, my technical prowess. You're like, Weston, get it over with. What are you talking about? I was playing Baldur's Gate the other day, and I've put God knows how many hours into this game, just dinking around and taking I'm still in Act 2. I've had the game since launch, and I'm not exactly sure what day this podcast episode is going to come out on, but probably not too far away from when I'm recording it. So I've had the game since launch, and I'm still I'm actually just at the end of Act 2. I just finished Act 2. I'm moving on to Act 3. So that's what I mean when I say that I have not had nearly as much time as I'd like to have been playing games, to have played Baldur's Gate, because I feel like I definitely should have finished a campaign by now, but I'm just getting into Act 3. And there are 3 acts, so I'm just getting to that point. But I was in the shadow-cursed lands, and I was in a deep, dark, it wasn't the mausoleum, it was some other crypt or something, for those of you familiar. I don't even remember what the heck the place was called. But anyway, I was in some crypt or something, and I clicked on a door, and I was about to walk through a door into this other area. I think I was leaving, so I was heading back into the overworld. And as I did that, my character walks up to leave and load in a new area. And then all 3 of my monitors of my computer just shut down. Just no power detected, entering saving mode, shutting down. Now I will say, yeah, I do spend a bit of money on my technology. All right, that's what I like to have. I am a man with 3 monitors. Now, granted, only one of my monitors is fancy. I have a very expensive. I splurged on a very pricey main monitor, which is very nice, very nice. It's the most. It's got HDR stuff, whatever. So it's got that high resolution contrast stuff. It's 1440p instead of 1080p. I'm someone who's like never had that high a resolution before. You know, I've never dived into 4K. I've never dived in 1440p. 1080 is like the best. My first computer monitor when I built my desktop, the first monitor I got for it wasn't even 1080p. It was literally a 900p. It was a 1600 by 900 monitor with 900p, and you could upscale to 1080p. So that's just to give you an idea. And it wasn't like I play all my games on like, I don't care if it's 30 FPS and 1080, whatever. I'm not a big, huge graphical guy. But anyway, I've slowly upgraded over the years. I started with that first monitor, and then eventually I got a second monitor that could do full scale, like 1920 by 1080, like better fidelity, blah, blah, blah. And it was so nice, looked so good. In fact, I'll let you guys know, my first monitor was a Scepter monitor. I don't know if you've heard of that brand or not. I hadn't. It was just cheap. My second monitor was an Asus monitor, and I was familiar with Asus because I've had an Asus laptop before, and I think I've got another Asus like part in my computer, in my desktop, believe it or not. But anyway, it was an Asus monitor, and I'm like, okay, that's super cool. I recognize that brand, nice monitor. But my third monitor here, my big bad boy, is this LG monitor. LG being life's good. I used to have an LG phone a long time ago, and it's got NVIDIA G-Sync hooked up. It's got like a bunch of stuff. It's a monitor. It's an expensive monitor. It's got a bunch of stuff in it that I don't even understand how to use, but I try. And it looks so nice. Anyway, all 3 of my monitors go down at the same time when I'm entering this room in my game. And I'm like, that's not good, because what does that mean? Now, if one of my monitors had powered down, shut down, or whatever, I'd be like, oh, especially if it was my first monitor. I've had it for a while. Maybe some part in it is busted and like it's dead or whatever. I'm like, okay, if one monitor went down, it's probably the monitor's fault. But all 3 went down at the same time. I'm like, that's weird. And it said it was a power thing, like, you know, no power detected, shutting down. So I was like, okay, all my monitors are plugged into the same power strip, plugged into the same outlet. So maybe there's something wrong with the power strip or the outlet, you know, something electrical like that, maybe. So I go to the power strip. I'm like, oh yeah, but I also have this lamp. It's like a 4-prong power strip or whatever. I've also got a lamp plugged into it, and the lamp is still on. All right, so I've got, you know, a lamp, like just a floor lamp next to me. I'm like, it's still on, so it's drawing some kind of power. So, you know, I mess with it, I turn it off, unplug it, whatever. I tried a couple things. I forget what order I did things in, but I was like, well, maybe it's still drawing power, but like the outlet itself can't draw enough power to run all 4 things at once. And I don't know why. It's just 4 monitors and a lamp. That's not a lot of power. It's not like I'm not doing it. That's not crazy. But I tried unplugging a few things and tried turning on the computer again. And with the computer running, I plugged everything back in just to see if it would, like, I don't know, short circuit something or not. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think a breaker flipped. Nothing like that happened because, like I said, the lamp was still lit. I could get all 3 monitors on, lights on, whatever. Everything's running good. I've got the computer, which I didn't mention. When all the monitors went down, I hit F5 to save my game, and I like powered down my computer because I couldn't see anything going on my computer. And so I was like, I don't know how else to like reset the monitors into believing that like the computer's running without turning the computer off. Like the monitors were just black. So I was like, okay, that's weird. So I reset the computer too. And when I reset the computer, all the monitors came back on. They're doing their thing. Great, fantastic. I boot up Baldur's Gate 3. We get like loaded up, get to the menu screen. I click to like load my game. All 3 monitors shut down. Same thing. I didn't even get into the game. I was like, oh no, is it a Baldur's Gate thing? Is this some weird bug? Is there like an installation? Because I had a patch recently, so it was like, is there like an installation bug or something? Is it Baldur's Gate? I do the whole process over again. I shut everything down. boot it back up, let my computer do its restart thing. And I'm like, okay, everything's looking good so far. Let's open a different game. I opened up another game that I've got installed on my computer called Monster Train. I boot it up, comes to the main menu. I kind of click on some buttons. I look at some stuff. I didn't really start the game per se. But I was like, okay, it's running this game. I'll go try to run like a different game. I'm just going to try a couple things. I got a couple games on my computer. I'm going to try a couple games. I click exit game to like close down Monster Train. All 3 of my monitors shut down. But now the fan inside my computer box starts going nuts. And I don't know which fan it is by looking at it, because the glass screen side that I have is, I don't have like crazy RGB lights or whatever inside my computer. I don't do any of the gamer stuff. But I do I do have a glass screen, so if I shine a light in there, I can kind of see, or I can just take off the screen or whatever. But I could hear at least a fan just going nuts in there, just whirring like faster than ever. And I'm like, that's really not good. So I shut everything down. And I open up the glass panel and get a light so I can kind of see what's going on. I boot up the computer, try to like do everything that I was doing that was making it fail so I can see what was going on. And the CPU fan is going nuts and shutting down all the monitors. I'm like, okay, that's bizarre. I have no... I think it was, the CPU fan. So I'm like, oh, that's not good. Is there something wrong with my CPU? I'm not super techie, but I did build my computer. So I'm like looking at the different parts of my computer. It's like, is there too much dust? I'm kind of like feeling around, not like, just waving my arm over some of the components, just to see it from the back of my hand if anything's getting too hot. Because, the fan was going nuts. And I'm like, nothing's like, it's warm from use, but not hot. So I do some Googling, and it's like, okay, what I'm finding for someone else that had a similar problem to this, that actually had nothing to do with the CPU, for them it was their PSU, the power supply unit, basically the giant thing that delivers all the power to all the different parts, right? Kind of like a giant battery that you plug in, right? That it's a PSU issue. And I'm like, okay, so it might be the PSU, it might be my CPU, because that's where the fan's going nuts, but also... while I was turning the computer on and off and doing all that jazz, I also had my my like task manager up, trying to figure out, like if I could see anything drawing too much resources to like either the CPU, the GPU, whatever. And I'm like, well, maybe it's also my GPU, because it's happening when I boot up the computer, things are fine. But when I boot up a game, which is heavy GPU, very intensive, everything shuts down. So I'm like, maybe it's the GPU. It could be any of these things. I don't know. But this thing on Google says PSU, so I'm going to try to drag it out. So I like unscrew the compartment holding my PSU into it. Try to pull it out, but I'm a moron. I forgot to unplug like anything from the PSU. So like I pull on this thing to take it out, and it gets stuck. I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, it's attached to a bunch of cords, you moron. I can't just take it out. So I forget kind of exactly how my tower is built, and I look around for what I need to unplug. I start unplugging things so that I can take the PSU safely out without like electric shocking anything or whatever. And I mean, to be fair, I did unplug the PSU from the outlet. I unplugged that part. Okay, I wasn't so dumb. I didn't do that. I couldn't take the PSU out without unplugging that entirely from power. But it was plugged into the rest of my computer, right? I unplug it from the GPU. I unplug it from the motherboard. I unplug it from the CPU. I get it unplugged. I take off the back panel of the other side panel of my tower so I can get better access to the PSU. And I go to start unplugging things from the PSU unit itself. And I'm like, oh, what's this? There's a loose cord back here. What is this? Hold on a minute. There's a cord here that's already unplugged. And I finagle my way around, because it's very tight to move your cords around inside my computer. My cord management, not fantastic. There's a cord already unplugged, and it's the cord that goes to my GPU. So I start thinking, hold on a minute, what if this cord was already loose? So like there was barely any power getting to my GPU, so when I started booting up games and stuff, the GPU didn't have enough power to run the game, more or less, shorted itself or whatever, and that's why everything would shut down. Now, I don't know why the CPU fan would go nuts, but maybe that's like maybe somewhere in the motherboard, there's some sort of fail-safe in there where, like, since the GPU was disconnected, the CPU tried to, like, pick up the slack, tried to do the extra work, and obviously just couldn't, because my CPU cannot do what my 2080 GPU could do. To AMD 2080, AMD Ryzen 2080. I get words and numbers confused, but it's a 2080 something or other. It's an older GPU now by today's standards, because we're in the 80 series or whatever. I might upgrade it eventually to a 30 something, but I'm not ready to just jump into the 40 somethings, because there have been issues with those, and they're expensive because people are making NFTs with them and whatever. But I might upgrade it eventually. But the 2080 serves me very well for my purposes, and has been for years now. So anyway, that's what I figured. I'm like, what if that's what was happening? So I just plug it back into the PSU, get everything that I already unplugged, I plugged back in, get the power supply slid back in, get everything put back together, turn on the computer, and voila. Everything runs better than it was before. Because I didn't preface this, but I was having issues, and I just assumed it was a Baldur's Gate issue, where I was having issues where, like, I was having some graphical bugs, like graphical things weren't happening, areas were taking a little long to load in, and so there were a bunch of graphical issues, but I was trying to run on higher settings, and like I said, my GPU is several years old now, and I power use it because I do video editing. I'm like, well, maybe it's just me, but I had been, over the course of the last week, like, more and more issues were coming up, but I was like, well, maybe I've butchered some kind of settings or something. So, like, I was starting to get suspicious something was up, but it was this final straw of everything just shutting down on me that I'm like, oh, that's weird. But now that I got everything plugged in and put back together, all the issues are gone and the game's running great again. So anyway, what I'm trying to say, and I've been explaining this for like ever, what I'm trying to say is I'm very glad that I built this computer myself, so that when something like that happened, when I got this issue and had to open up my computer, that I could kind of like look around and start to piece together, like, okay, I know how to take this apart. I know what the different parts are. And I feel like that experience was very helpful. And now I can play my video game that I like so much again. I can play my Baldur's Gate. I've been playing quite a bit of it. For those of you that are actually more interested in the game than all of that tech stuff, I'm playing a bard. A human bard. Just a human. I like playing my basic humans. There's something about, like, in a lot of games, in a lot of fantasy games, where you can be a bunch of crazy other races, like elves, or, again, like tieflings, orcs, whatever. I do sometimes like playing the basic human, just because I have this sense of, like, a lot of times these other creature races get all kinds of crazy abilities and bonuses and stuff, and humans are a lot more basic. I'm like, I want to prove that the human spirit, the human condition can, like, can compensate for being basic. I don't know, there's something weird about that. I think, like, the first thing I think about is how everyone makes fun of, like, Krillin from Dragon Ball Z. I know, out of left field comparison, if you're into anime at all, or you were into Dragon Ball back in the day, people make fun of, like, Krillin and Dragon Ball Z for becoming, like, useless, and basically all the human characters become useless. And I'm like, Krillin at one point in time was crazy OP with his Destructo disc or whatever. He's very powerful. Krillin is straight up, like, the most powerful human on the planet. But the only reason people think he's stupid and weak is because of all these crazy Saiyans that have god powers, because Toriyama decided, you know, the guy who made the show, decided that he just wanted to give everybody god powers. I'm like, no, Krillin's super dope. And the show, baked in, has a way of the human condition becoming more powerful, like through Kaioken and stuff like that. Like, Krillin has the capacity to surpass even his most powerful abilities where he is. Just the show decided to move on from all of the other human characters, you know, like Yamcha, Tien, etc. And I'm like, Krillin's super dope. I love Krillin, and he's human, and he deserves more respect. So I think there's some sort of weird chip on my shoulder, and I don't know if it originates from Dragon Ball Z or somewhere else, but that's the first example I can think of. There's this chip on my shoulder where I like to make powerful human characters to prove that humans aren't stinky poo-poo, right? So that's what I like to do. So I've got this basic human bard. Coffee. And bard is just a class I've never messed with ever at all. I wanted to be some kind of spellcaster type thing. But I didn't necessarily want to be a wizard, because just in D&D, like normal D&D, I've played a wizard character before. So I kind of wanted to just try a class that I've never tried before. And I'm like, I want to be a caster, but I kind of want to be something I haven't ever messed with at all. So I was like, Bard is so not in my repertoire. Like, I just don't do anything to do with bards. I was like, let's be a bard. And I've been having a blast playing a bard. They get so many charismatic options because, you know, they're a bard, so they should be very suave, and they have a lot of charisma and dialogue stuff. So they've got a lot of dialogue stuff that I love. And they're really well-rounded for proficiencies. They're just kind of a skill monkey. They just kind of, they can do a little bit of everything, and he tends to be my, like, best character to do a lot of tasks. His name is Bonestrom. I rearranged the letters to the word trombones. It was trombone. I was like, I can rearrange the, like, trombone, because I used to play a trombone. I still can play a trombone, but I haven't touched my trombone in a long time. So I'm a little rusty. But I used to play the trombone, and I was like, I'm looking for a name for my bard. I'm like, I'm just going to rearrange the letters of trombone into a name. I'm like, that's like, I could do like bone trom instead of trombone, bone trom. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound good. But bone strum, if I put an S in there, sounds pretty good. So it's trombones rearranged into bone strum. So that's his name. I love him. Try to make him look like me. I did the whole, like, you know, red hair, facial hair, like, try to make him look like me. He looks like a much better version of me. Like, he's got way more glorious hair, honestly, because I don't know, because he looks like a handsome adventurer, and I'm just a computer gremlin. So anyway, yeah, I've got him. I forget what his starting instrument was, but I've rotated him through basically all the instruments that you can play in the game. And I just like walking into large groups of people and just start playing like a lute, and people like gather around. They're like, oh my God, you're so good at looting. And they like throw me money, and it's fantastic. I love it. Playing a bard has been super fun. My party that I run with, I've got it's me, the bard, rolling with all the gal pals, right? I've got Karlach and Shadowheart and Lae'zel. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, okay, to me it's funny because it's like literally all the female characters, and the bard like meme, the meme for bards, like the horny bard meme is very prevalent, right? So it's like the bard and his harem of women that follow him around, and I'm like, okay, I know it's funny, but there is also like a mechanical strategic reason to run with those three, because I really like Gale. And early on, when I didn't have like everybody unlocked yet, I didn't have everybody in my party yet, I really liked running with Gale. I did like Will because of Eldritch Blast, and I like Gale because I like wizards. I like spellcasters, and Gale's just kind of a cool guy. So I liked Gale. I liked some of the other characters, and I would have loved to have Asterion more in my party because I also like rogues as a character class. It's another one that I've played myself before in regular D&D. So I like some of the other characters too, but I really like me, the bard, Shadowheart, the cleric. So we've got these two kind of support casters working together, and then I've got Karlach and Lae'zel that are like these meat shields that run up, and they high damage output because they're both like, you know, two-handing weapons, so they're massive weapons that do a lot of damage, and they both have great AC, so they're really good tanks too, because, you know, Lae'zel's got a bunch of crazy armor. She's a fighter type, so she's got crazy armor, big sword, that kind of thing. Karlach's a barbarian. She's got no armor, but barbarians get an unarmored bonus, like unarmored defense bonus, that if you wear no armor, period, not even a little bit of armor, then you can get this like skill or perk or trait or whatever. It's unarmored defense. You get a bonus to your defense based on your like dexterity modifier or something like that. I forget what I think it's your con modifier, your constitution modifier. Anyway, so she's got good AC just because she's got bonuses that allow her to do that. And of course, I've got the gloves of unarmored defense, so she's got an extra defense bonus because the gloves don't count as armor. They're not like armor gloves, they're just gloves. Anyway, so she's got good AC armor class, and she hits hard. I've had her wielding this giant battle axe. I think she's got a glaive or something now. I forget. I don't even remember what she's wielding. She just beats people to a pulp. So anyway, I send them two out as my like meat shield to just beat people into an oblivion, while Shadowheart and I, as the cleric and the bard, do a bunch of support stuff in the back. Or the other thing I like to have the cleric do, especially in Act 2 with all the undead, is that when you get like spirit guardians and spiritual weapons, I like to like pop down the spirit guardians because it's this radiant AoE thing that just follows you around. You can run around from enemy to enemy and just like let radiant light rain down from the heavens above, just destroying the undead. Clerics are very good against the undead, so she's been very powerful in Act 2. So anyway, I just really like that composition. If I were playing someone else, like if I had chosen a fighter class for my own class, or like even a rogue or something, I probably, like if I was a fighter class, I probably would have gotten Gale in there instead. I probably swap somebody out, or some other party composition. But this party composition of fighter, barbarian, cleric, bard, I'm just really liking that composition a lot. Been playing that quite a darn bit, and I've just been nerding out for the last little bit. I've got some other sort of life updates I'm getting. I'll probably go into more detail about this in another future episode of a Hasty podcast, but we're getting a little bit short on time here. But I've got a few life updates that I'll spend the next couple minutes kind of going over. Of course, keeping super busy, working the sub shop, doing the normal things that I do over there. Life has been hectic as heck over there because people have been coming and going. I've had a lot of staff changes, and we're currently hiring, so we're it's kind of chaos right now where I'm filling in the gaps where I need to, and we're trying to get people trained that are new. And when you work in the food service industry, sometimes that happens. Staff changes can happen all at once in a very short period of time, and it's stressful, especially if you're the manager of said food service establishment. So I have been very busy in terms of that alone, but I've also been kind of looking for some other work. So I've been kind of quiet on my YouTube and stuff because I've been putting some feelers out for some other work as well, and I think I may have landed something right now. It's not anything crazy or technically full time right now, but it's got the capacity to go further. That I can go further into this. It's some remote work that kind of utilizes my actual like writing and marketing skills, which is very exciting. It's a different avenue of work than I'm used to, but it is in the avenue of work that I actually did go to school for, and I've been really itching to put my school experience to actual use. You may remember from a previous episode of a Hasty podcast, I talked about graduating from college finally with a degree in hand. In fact, funny story about that degree. Man, I was getting so nervous for a long time because they actually mail out your degree. You don't actually get your degree the day you graduate. It gets like mailed out from the university, and they tell you it can take like up to 2 months to deliver. I don't know why. That just seems like a really long time. I know they have to like process everything and actually affirm and make sure you did in fact, because the graduation ceremony itself takes place so soon after like you actually turn in your finals and stuff that like technically speaking you can show up to your ceremony but then actually not graduate if you failed stuff or whatever. So I was getting super nervous when it took like 3 months to get my degree mailed in. I'm like, do I need to contact my school? Because like I can go onto my like account, and as far as I can tell, I should be graduated, but I don't have my degree. Where's it at? And it finally came in. But I was getting super nervous, like, what did I do wrong? What do I need to do? But it finally came in. Anyway, so I have a degree in hand. I need to put this to use. And it's been some time since I graduated, but life happens, and I've been so busy, and I hadn't been like really putting as many feelers out as I'd wanted to, but I'm finally getting around to like starting to try to think about doing that. So I don't know. We'll see where this goes. I'll probably talk more about it when I have more to say about it. Not that I can probably say a lot. I don't like saying too much about my work in general, like specifics, because I just don't want to like cross any weird lines. Like, Lord forbid somebody like recognizes, like if I'm talking about a person and they recognize that would be a problem. Or if I talk about a scenario that involves a person, and that would become a problem. Or if whatever, that's something that I don't want to do. But it is exciting. It's happening in my life that I'm kind of like trying to do this sort of transition to some maybe other work, which will be pretty exciting. So that's kept me very busy. I have been trying to get back into the YouTube game. Again, I've been making some videos, which has been exciting. I have not been streaming because I have just no time to stream, but I've had time to like do a quick recording and get that out there. So I've been doing that on the old YouTube. So if you're into gaming, because I've been talking about computer stuff and gaming for the last half hour, if you're into gaming, come check out my channel on YouTube called Magic Man Mo, where I post a lot of just random gaming stuff. Like it's really random. So check it out. Like we play some Flash games. We play some point and click adventure games. We play God, I can't even, what else do we even, what else? There's a lot of, I'm going to my list right now. There's some web games. We play some demos of stuff like that. What was that called? Like something Melody. There was a rhythm-based, Scratch and Melody was a new up-and-coming rhythm-based game. Play some mobile games from time to time, some short horror video games from time to time. Dude, we do all kinds of random stuff. Just come on over. Come on by. Check it out. In the meantime, you have been listening to a Hasty podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever you can do wherever you're listening to this. And until next time, bye-bye.